I'm Janice Hostegger. After 3 decades in the marketing business and many years of being an entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about marketing. Join me as we talk about marketing, small business, and life in between. Welcome to my weekly marketing. Going into business, especially a business with our name on it, can be an exercise in self-confidence. Not only are we taking a risk by opening the business, but we're putting our ideas and our hard work and our name out into the world, which means that we're really putting our heart out there too. And in this day and age, we need to market ourselves by going on video on social media, speaking in public, and appearing on podcasts. All of that can rattle even the most self-assured among us. And sometimes that's when imposter syndrome starts creeping in too. Little gremlin thoughts that can start in the back of your head saying things like, I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough, smart enough, pretty enough to do all these things. Anybody else, or is that just me? That's why I'm so excited to have Stacey Hagen on my podcast today. Stacy is a business coach, but she's also a life coach with a background in trauma-informed care. How do these all fit together, you wonder? Quite well, I learned. Stacy's going to tell us all about how past trauma comes front and center when we're putting our businesses together. You're not going to want to miss this. Here's my conversation with Stacy. Tell me about your business and how you got to this point.
Sure. So I call myself a holistic business and marketing coach. My background after college was working in marketing for many years for a variety of companies. Then in 2015, I went to get my coaching certification. And then after that, I started my own business, kind of combining the marketing and the business background that I have. I have an MBA as well. So taking that business knowledge and marketing knowledge and combining it with my coaching certification to coach individuals in business. And when I started, I was coaching a variety of people, but now I'm really specializing in coaching other coaches like life coaches, health coaches, relationship coaches. And I also coach healers, like spiritual healers, energy healers, Reiki healers, acupuncturists, yoga teachers, those types of professionals as well.
That's really interesting. So what is it that prompted you to go into coaching when you were kind of on a marketing track, right? Or a business track?
That's a good question. So I had just finished my MBA. I did a working program while I was working full time, and I was climbing the corporate ladder, but I really didn't enjoy it. And I was questioning, what is my next move? Where do I really want to be? And I ended up hiring a coach to help me figure out. I ended up hiring a career coach to help me figure out what I wanted to do next. And through that process, I realized I don't think I want to work for someone else. I think I really want to work for myself. And that was really the beginning of, the spark of starting my own business. And it all kind of slowly unfolded from there.
I mean, that's so interesting to me because so many of us kind of start out on that path too. It's like you think you know what you're going to do, and then you start doing it, and it's like, yeah, I don't like where my life is headed. So kudos to you for pivoting and getting to a place where you're happy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't easy. And it wasn't like a single coaching session. And then I decided to start my business and then everything went smoothly. It was this process, right? Of like exploring, I started exploring entrepreneurship while I was in my job. Then I like scaled back to working part-time in my job and starting my business. So, I definitely eased into it, which felt good for me.
Good. Yeah. So on your website, you say, my coaching method is not just about mindset or strategy, although I bring in both. It's about addressing all aspects of who you are, mind, body, and soul. How is that different from the way other people approach coaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. Speaking to the people that I've worked with in a coaching capacity or seen online, there's a lot of business coaches who are just focused on the strategy part, or a lot of, marketing coaches who are focused on just the strategy and get yourself out there and do this and do that. Um, and mindset is definitely a big piece of it, especially when it comes to marketing and visibility, because it really can bring up a lot of stuff for us when we have to put ourselves out there, talk about our personal stories, sell something like coaching. Mindset's a big part of it that I draw on from my coaching background. Strategy is a part of it. But then it's also, what really drove me to start this business is, what if everyone could do work they loved, like using their innate gifts and talents? Like, what would that be
Mm.
like? And
Mhm.
so I really think like everyone's business, if everyone did that, their business would be like a snowflake, right? Everything would be unique to you. Like you would be running your business the way you want to run it. You would be offering packages that you want to offer. And so that's when I say a business built around who you are or aligned with who you are, that's what I mean. Aligned with your values and your skills and your gifts.
Oh, there's so many good things there to unpack what you just said. First of all, you're absolutely right. I think oftentimes as business owners, especially when we're just starting out, we want to look legit. So we put on a mask of somebody that we maybe admire, or we're kind of look at somebody else and say, wow, they were really successful. I'm going to do what they're going to do.
Mhm.
And kind of end up not true to ourselves. Right. And I think that is so important of what you just said there, because we really, really do need to pull in our own unique background and our own take on things, because that becomes our personal brand in the process, especially if it is a personal brand, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think it's so common when we start, we want to watch other people who have succeeded. And, we probably find ourselves signing up for this program because this is how this person got success. So this is how I can get success. And it, it's not that easy. We're all different people. We have different skills. And I've seen a lot of people who go down that path eventually burn out because they're just doing what everyone's telling them to do, and they're not really being true to themselves at all. And then what is the point of running your own business when you're just doing what someone else is telling you to do? So I think the
Mhm.
earlier on we can get clear on like, these are my goals, these are my values, this is my vision, the better it will be.
And that is all encompassed in your brand for sure. That's where when I'm working with a client and it's about branding, we start with that vision and mission statement. So what recommendations do you have for somebody who might have gone down that path? Like they're trying to succeed, they're doing all the things that they see other people doing and it's not working for them. They don't even know what their personal brand is. You kind of get lost in that, I think. It's easy to. So what recommendations would you have for somebody who feels or have finds themselves in that situation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing is there's no shame in that, right? I mean, many people, I mean, I would assume almost the majority of people end up probably taking that path before they pause and say, wait, this isn't working. How else could I do this? So to just bring awareness to the fact that, okay, maybe you have been following other people's processes and methods, and maybe it's not working for you. And that doesn't mean anything is wrong with you, right? But maybe you can pause and go back to the drawing board and, just put your business aside for a moment and think about what's really important to you. And why
Mm,
did you want to start this business? And what would it really look like and feel like for you to have the business you wanted? Maybe it looks
mm,
totally different from that person you've been emulating. And I think
mhm,
that's the first part, is to take a beat and just go back to yourself and do some self-exploration.
mm. That's really good. So, and that can be scary, right? Especially when we're doing something and we're unsure about maybe if this is the right way. And I think that's part of something that I personally run up against is that going through our education system, working in corporate America, you learn there's a right and a wrong way to do everything. But in reality, there's a right way for you. but there may not be a right way. And in fact, in marketing, when everybody's running this way, you kind of want to be running out the other way sometimes because you're not going to get noticed in the crowd. You want to do things differently. You want to set yourself apart, right?
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I feel like I've uttered the phrase to clients a lot, like there is no one right way. We want to find, the right way to talk about our services, the right way to lay it out on our website, the right way to post on Instagram. And there is not one right way. Even if someone is teaching you the right way, there is no one right way. So it is about finding what's right for you. And there may be many options that are right for you. And
Mm.
I think of marketing as like an educated experiment. And so is
Yes.
business as well, right? Like we use the information we have and then we experiment and then we learn from our experiments and we tweak and we move forward.
Yes. Oh, that is so true. Yeah. And I have a coach that always says either you get the results you wanted or the lesson you needed. And that has been such a powerful line that I say to myself over and over because it's so easy to get frustrated in our marketing. And
Yeah.
it's really hard if we put ourselves out there and it doesn't work. Like if we're putting ourselves out on YouTube, for example, or for me, it was just doing reels, like putting myself on video. I'm not 20 something anymore. Like I have wrinkles, I have some gray hairs. So like putting myself out there amongst all these 30 somethings that are having fabulous success was really, really hard for me. And, it feels awkward and weird at first. And if that doesn't succeed, then it feels like a personal hit, right?
Yeah, I think that is like one of the top things that holds people back is that fear of what will people think? What if it doesn't work? What if I fail publicly, even if that failure looks like you posting a reel with your face and it doesn't get any traction. That can
Yeah.
really be disheartening and we can really take it personally.
Yeah.
But I think the more we can we're going to be beginners at this until we're not. So just being willing to be a beginner at YouTube, Instagram, at your business, just embrace that beginner mindset. And as hard as it is, try not to take things personally. The more we can detach from the results, like, hey, I'm just posting this reel. It may get traction. It may not.
Mhm.
Whatever it gets is just information. It doesn't have to change me or what I think about myself.
Right. And the answers are in the analytics or the
Mhm.
magic is in the debrief, as they say. When you start taking a look at that, and if you can detach yourself from it, because it's so easy, and maybe I don't know if it's a woman thing, but we can tend to take things personally, like, oh, why would I even try that? That was stupid. Like it must be me. My course is terrible. I don't want to, my what was I even thinking? And we
Yeah.
go down this rabbit hole of negative self thought and self doubt, and it could just hang us up for sure.
Totally. That self-doubt, second guessing. I mean, I coach mostly women. So I mean, I see it come up with many of my clients. I mean, I've been through it as well. But I think the more you can kind of strengthen, it's like you want to strengthen the visibility muscle, but you also want to strengthen your own resilience. So you just care less. Like,
Yes.
if you're going to get used to being visible and doing reels and being on Instagram or being on YouTube or whatever your marketing channels are, and then the more you can just detach from it, the easier it will get for you.
That is so true. Yeah. The more you do it, the easier it becomes and the more confidence you gain in the process.
Right.
Sometimes it just takes that first step, putting
Yes.
yourself out there, holding your breath and like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yes. And I think it's so easy to take things personally when our business is us. Like I'm marketing myself as a coach. I'm not selling you
Right.
a widget. And so that makes it more personal. Which yeah, which is normal. I mean, we're normal humans. And we care about our businesses. And I think that's why this is challenging.
Right. And oftentimes our businesses have our names on it.
Right.
There's one thing that Brendan Burchard had said I went to a coaching conference that he had done. And he said, trust the process. It's about the framework you have. It's about the process. Trust the process because the process works. Don't try and sell yourself because that's where we get tripped up, I think, sometimes is because we think that imposter syndrome starts setting in. We think, maybe I don't know as much as I should, or the competitor does, or somebody else out there, somebody asked me a question. I don't know. What do I do? You know, that's, it's that little voice that's in the back of your head that keeps.
Yes. Yeah, I love the trust your process, and I would say trust yourself as well. Like,
Okay.
rarely have I met a woman with imposter syndrome who didn't know what she was doing. I I think that is super ironic, right?
Yeah.
Like, very successful women, or even if you haven't started a business before, the people I work with, they're really good at what they do. They're good coaches, they're good healers, they're good at their thing, but somehow the marketing aspect triggers that imposter syndrome. So if we can just remember, like, hey, I am good at what I do. And imposter syndrome is normal, but that doesn't mean I don't do this.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes I think we forget how much we know or don't realize how much we know. We're so immersed in our own worlds that we assume that people know what we're talking about I mean, I run into this in marketing. I'll, talk to a client and I'll throw out the word SEO or
Mhm,
the abbreviation SEO and they'll be like, wait, I don't even know what that means.
mhm.
And, things like that where you just assume that people understand what you're talking about, what you're selling, but that's not always the case. You really do have a lot more depth of knowledge than you realize sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And that brings up, yeah, two really good points. Like, one, owning your expertise and depth of knowledge and realizing how much you do know. And then secondly, that makes me think of client centric marketing, which is, can you put on your client hat when you are on Instagram or YouTube? So you're speaking to them in their language, in words they know. And usually the words they're using and the words we are using as experts are the same, usually.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to kind of forget that. Now, your trauma informed certification, right? Is that what it is? Okay. So that kind of acknowledges the impact that trauma has on a person's life. And
Mhm.
how does that present itself when you're dealing with a client or another
Yeah.
coach?
That's a good question. So I got my coaching certification in 2015, and then I got my trauma informed certification. I want to say it was 2021. But basically the whole reason I did that is because as I started to work with people more specifically on marketing and visibility, like putting your face out there, speaking about your work, sharing about the value you provide, it really can bring up a lot in people. And I think, especially in women, because so often we've had experiences in the past, whether it was in a corporate job or in school or as a kid, where we haven't been seen, heard, or understood, or maybe we've been shut down, maybe we've been told our voice doesn't matter.
Mm.
And I think trauma, and I think more and more people are getting familiar with the term trauma, and that there's like big T trauma, like the big things that happen, like accidents, assaults, the major trauma. And then there's also little T trauma, which is even probably minimizing it too much, but things that can happen in our past and our childhood that maybe didn't seem that big at the time, but our nervous system didn't have the capacity to handle it. And that really is a definition of trauma. And that can leave us with these really charged reactions to things like marketing and visibility. So my goal in getting that certification was to be able to hold a safe space for people that have experienced any type of trauma and be able to hold that space and guide them through a process of not only seeing how that their past has maybe impacted how they're showing up in their business, but deciding how they want to move forward with that.
Mm, that is super interesting. There's so much that goes into running a business, isn't it? I mean, just listening to you thinking, Wow, we really bring our whole lives to our business.
Yeah, that's the thing. We bring our whole self to our business. And, I'm not a therapist. And if someone is experiencing a lot of trauma, in their life or a big traumatic reaction is coming up, I refer them out to therapy. But,
Mm,
for 90% of the people I've worked with, this idea of being visible has brought up something traumatic in their past that they've had to acknowledge in order to move forward.
hmm. That's super interesting. I'm going to have to think on this all weekend. Like,
Yeah.
because I think it does take a little bit of digging sometimes to understand, like you said, why are we afraid to put ourselves out there? What happened? Or I mean, because we have all had many, many interactions with people. It's like, but something along the line probably is making us nervous about doing it and just trying
Yeah.
to unpack all of that and figure it out.
And it could be as simple as, oh, when I got up to give a speech when I was 10, my classmates laughed at me and,
Hmm.
I completely mortified. you
Yeah.
know those things actually impact us. So, one way to see, one entry point is to see, like, to ask yourself, okay, what triggers me about being visible, or what is feeling really charged about being visible? What is the fear around that? Is it that I'll publicly fail, no one will accept me, I'll be judged? And then if you can track back to your past and say, okay, when in the past have I felt like that?
Yeah.
Uh, that's
Oh,
one way.
so good. So good. So let's pivot a bit here. With a background in marketing, so you started your coaching business. Tell us what was a really big marketing challenge that you ran into? Because I know, and you probably do too, that when you're marketing somebody else's business, it's very different than when you're marketing your own, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yeah, did you have any challenges that you ran into?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, it was a challenge of mine to market myself. Like, I had already been in marketing for like 15 years before I started my business. And I mean, I worked in email marketing, I worked in brand management, I worked in copywriting. I mean, I've done all these things, but then
Hmm.
when it came time to do it for me, I just, like, I could do it, but I didn't want to do it. Right. It was that visibility piece. Like, okay, I can write this email, I can set up this campaign, but I just had so much reticence to doing it. And to me, that was where, like, the inner work really came in, exploring the imposter syndrome, building, like, taking baby steps and building my confidence over time. And taking baby steps with visibility too, like, maybe going live in a very, very small Facebook group, or pitching myself to a podcast with a very, very small audience, and then building from there.
Right. Right. Yeah. I do find that's really true too. And I think part of it is there's an expression I heard that you can't the jar can't read its label from the inside. So I think it's important that we get some outside feedback sometimes when we're doing our own marketing because it's
Mhm,
really hard to assess what we got going on from the inside. In fact,
mhm,
when I start with a new client, I tell them, we have about 3 months before I get so familiar with this brand that I'm not able to see it objectively anymore. So we want to move fast in those first few months to make sure that I'm looking at it the way an outsider does. I'm not looking at it like an insider does because it changes over time,
mhm,
right? Yeah. So I totally run into that with my own marketing. I'm constantly trying to get feedback from people that are in my target customer and asking them, what do you think about this? And I've moved past my family because they're like, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
And they're not my target customer anyway. So, yeah. So do you feel like that kind of came into play too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at the beginning, I was just trying to get my feet wet and get used to talking about myself and marketing myself. But definitely, now, like, having that feedback from other people, especially from ideal clients, like, I will still, like, if I'm creating something new, if it's like a freebie or a workshop or a package, I'll still do market research with my ideal clients, so that I can make sure I'm putting together something that serves them and so I can understand the way they talk about things and what they really want versus me just putting together something in a vacuum that I think works well, right?
Right. Yeah. And we all do that because I have been, even in my professional career, I have been so sure that I know the right thing to say or the right text or image to put on an ad
Mhm.
and totally wrong, because you just don't know what your ideal client is really going to be responding to sometimes,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
what'd you call it? Experimenting. What'd you call it earlier?
Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I forgot what I said, but yeah, marketing is an experimentation or
Hmm.
educated experiment. Maybe I said
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
So getting educated, like I would do that through, ideal client interviews, seeing what they're asking for online, seeing how they talk about a problem, actually speaking to some ideal clients. I would do that at the beginning of creating something new. And then, when it comes to marketing, like if I'm posting on Instagram, I would check my analytics and see, okay, what types of posts are they resonating with? What types of language or copy are they resonating with? Like with ads, what image are they resonating with? Because sometimes you don't know until you put it out there.
Hmm. Hmm. So you have experience with email marketing.
Mhm.
Has that, you're talking a little bit how you started it. Has it evolved over time or what do you do with email marketing that in your business?
Yeah, I love email marketing. I mean, I did before I left corporate, my one of my last roles was email marketing there. So I like email marketing a lot more than social media. I think it actually can be a really nice way to connect with people. And I feel like I can even be a little more personal in email than I might be on Instagram. Um,
Mhm.
and I like writing. So I've used kind of blogging and email marketing a lot in my business. Even when I've taken time off of social media, I've been like very consistent with email. So um,
Mm.
yeah, it's one thing I love and I think can be really effective for people. With new clients, people always seem hesitant to do email marketing. Like it's
Mhm.
this whole other thing they have to add to their business. But really, it should be part of whatever content strategy you have.
Yes.
Yeah. So whether you're on social media or you're blogging or you're creating YouTube videos or you're podcasting, like email can supplement like any of those content forms. And so you're not like constantly recreating the wheel.
Yeah, email is one of my favorites too, and it's still alive and well. I know every year they say, "Well, this is, email's dying," but no, it's not. It is by far the I think the best ROI you can still get in marketing if you're putting for paid marketing.
Yeah.
And yeah, the open rate and click through rate, it can be easily measured. And I have it in I have what I call the trail to the sale, where it starts with awareness, consider, compare, evaluate, sell,
Mhm.
um, supersize, and send. So I have it in that the consider stage, so that in that point you want to start that nurturing process.
Yeah.
And what I love also about email marketing is that you can automate it, and you can automate so much of it that you set it up once and it is done. So
Mhm.
you can set it up for link clicks. If somebody clicks on something, you can trigger a whole new automation for them to see. I mean, it's so powerful.
Yes. Yeah, and I love what you mentioned about kind of where it fits into the marketing funnel too. Because usually when I work with clients, they are new to this idea of a marketing funnel at all. And so we talk about like awareness activities, like how will strangers become aware of you? And that might be on Instagram or YouTube or SEO.
Hmm.
And then nurturing activities, which I feel like email is one of the best nurturing activities. Um,
Hmm.
you're not at the whim of an algorithm that decides when to show your email to people, like they get your email.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then conversion activities, which are, discovery calls leading to the sale. So,
Right. Right. So what strategies have worked well for you for growing your list?
yeah, good question. I think having a really good lead magnet is key. I
Mhm.
mean, because you could post all you want on social, but if people don't want your lead magnet, you're going to have trouble getting them to sign up for your list. And
Mm.
I always have clients who are like, "Can I just say join my list?" There has
Yes.
to be, why should someone join your list?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't need more email just to have
No,
more
nobody
email.
wants your email. Yeah. So that's why you offer something really valuable. And even then, doing the market research to see, okay, what would my clients find super, super valuable? They would happily hand over their email address.
Mhm.
So having like a great lead magnet and ideally more than one eventually, and then promoting that everywhere you are and promoting it on a consistent basis. So whether you're on
Mm.
Instagram or Facebook or podcasts or summits, you're always promoting that lead magnet. Um, yeah, and I teach a lot of organic marketing, so more so than ads. So definitely you can put ad money around it, with Facebook and Instagram too. But there's a lot you can do just with using organic free marketing activities to promote your lead magnet.
Yeah, and I mean, in the early days of like Facebook advertising, I'd put a lead magnet out there and I'd get, leads at like 8 cents a click. I mean, those days are so over.
Yeah.
Um, and people, I think, are getting a little fussier about what they'll download. So I think when you said it has to be a really good quality lead magnet, it has to really speak to a problem that your ideal customer is having, like really
Yeah.
speak to it and make it worth their time because nobody wants to give out away their email address. I won't say nobody wants to give it away. I would say that people are not giving it away as readily as they once did.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to have a good lead magnet and then you have to communicate the value of the lead magnet, right? So why should someone download it? What
Yeah.
what will it do for them?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, yeah, my landing pages for lead magnets have almost become mini sales pages
Yeah,
now
exactly.
because people are more consistent. And you can see that in your analytics that how many people visit your page versus how many people actually subscribe and get to that thank you page.
Totally. Yes. That's a good point too. Looking at your analytics, and I do that too, create a landing page for the lead magnet. The other thing I've done is, I had a blog post that was really popular about the fear of being visible or the fear of being seen. It was like by far my most popular blog post. And I was like, oh, I need to create a lead magnet around this. So I did, and it's, on that blog post. So that's another way to see like, oh, what are people wanting from me? Check your analytics, check your website analytics, even what topics people are wanting to hear from you on Instagram and see if you can
Hmm.
magnet around that.
Yeah. And that's a really good way to test the topic as well. I mean, if you're getting a lot of response to something you're putting out there, you can be sure there's interest. And it
Right.
may not be, again, it may not be what you think it's going to be. I'm always surprised that
Yeah.
I'm, thinking, well, they want to know this, this, and this, but they kind of don't. And sometimes I look inside myself and say, okay, what am I struggling with my marketing? Even if it's obscure or it doesn't seem real major, other people are having the same issues sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And, they might need the thing you have to offer, but they might be describing it in a different way. Mm,
Yes. Yeah.
And it's important to know that too, because you want to describe your lead magnet or your package in the way that relates to what they need.
Hmm.
They say they need
In their own words.
in their
Yeah,
own. Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Well, this has been such an interesting interview, Stacy. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So my website is createcoachingconsulting.com. That's probably the best way to see all about my work. I am on Instagram at create_coaching. And I have a Facebook group called Build Your Brand, Be Yourself. So any of those places.
I love that. And then you have a freebie too that you're giving away, right?
Yes. So I have, as I mentioned, that I have a free guide on how to manage the fear of being seen. I also have a free quiz on how to find your best way to market based on your strengths. So both of those are
Mm.
site.
Oh, that sound fascinating. Thank you again, Stacy. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Me too, Janice. Thanks for your time.
So I don't know about you, but Stacy gave me lots to think about with regard to putting myself out there and what holds me back. How about you? Did she give you some things to ponder and apply to your own life? To learn more about anything we talked about today, visit myweeklymarketing.com/53. That's episode 53. Thanks for joining me today. As always, I am thrilled and honored that you decided to join us. See you next time. Bye for now.